welcome to another episode of OCB's Natural Edge. I'm your host, Sully Sullivan, and I am joined by my two beautiful co-hosts, Aubrey Warwick, the diva in heels, and the good doctor is also in, Jodie, you're sickly right. All right, hey, today's episode, we are going to be combining our insider and our pro tips into kind of one thing. And this came about because I was asked numerous questions about what aspect, what point in our sport, what's one thing that happened with us as competitors that basically fulfilled your bodybuilding dream and changed your aspect and your mind on the sport? It's kind of a big philosophical question, like at what point in the sport does the sport change from something that happened on stage? And how did it make you a better person? And because that's such a loaded question, we figured we're going to set aside those two segments. But we are going to spotlight a few great competitors. And we have two awesome shows, one in Dallas, Texas, and one in Cleveland, Ohio, that we are going to feature in our Pose Down. So let's start with it. So let me try to phrase this question the way it's come at me, because it's come at me from, I bet, bouncing around one way or another. This question has been asked about a dozen times from different people in different ways. So it's kind of two parts. And it usually goes something of, what was your finest moment on stage? And what did you learn about yourself from the sport from that moment? And anybody who followed me in my old podcast, The Zen of Bodybuilding, knows I love those philosophical questions about what happened in the sport that made you a better person or changed you. So I just thought this was a great opportunity to talk about it. And maybe through our experiences, athletes will realize that there's more to competing and doing something on stage than even winning an event or getting a trophy or a check. So hey, teammates, let's have it. What was your defining moment?
Right. Mine actually begins with a backstory. So bear with me while I share the backstory. As a health and wellness coach in 2012, I was asked by one of my clients how to lose weight because he was going to be a kidney donor for his sister. And I said, I don't know anything about kidney donation, but I do know weight loss. And so proceeded to help him. And in my research, discovered that, wow, maybe this is something I might do. My son was grown, finances were in order. I thought I was healthy. So went through all of the stages to pursue that. And it's kind of funny because I researched the best facilities in the Southeast. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and landed on 3, just like I'd research a plumber, right? Like get the 3 best quotes or deals and see who has the best. Well, it didn't turn out that way because when I called Piedmont Hospital, they were just so wonderful. I didn't feel like I needed to go anywhere else. So 12 appointments later, because that's how intensive the vetting process is for a kidney donor, it was determined that I was in great shape. My creatine level was, they said that of a middle-aged male, which was very interesting to me. And I said, is that good? Or my glow fill, that's what it was, the kidney filtration. And they said, yes, absolutely, this is great. So proceeded with the procedure in February of 2013 and could not meet my recipient for at least 6 months. That's the deal. My kidney flew from Atlanta to Minneapolis. Her husband donated on her behalf so that she could get a kidney. His went on to be implanted in the woman across the hall from me, who I never met, and met my kidney recipient and her husband 6 months later in Minneapolis. Well, fast forwarding, I fell into bodybuilding because a couple trainers at a show at a gym said, you should do a show. Have you done a show? No. What are you talking about? And I thought, I'm 42 years old. What do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? So proceeded to train myself because I had the PhD in nutrition and I've been a certified fitness trainer. Bad idea. Don't do it. I encourage you to have another set of eyes, at least one other set of eyes. But went to the show, went to Kevin Parrott's show in February, the one that typically kicks off the season for the OCB. I had never attended a bodybuilding show, but ended up winning 5 out of 6 first place finishes. And why or how all of this comes together is that when we checked in at the hotel the night before the show, I looked down the hallway. I was with my husband and my sister, and I said, oh, look at that cute little dog. He looks so much like Bogey, which was Ray and Julie's dog. Well, Ray and Julie had driven from their second home in Florida to watch me compete. in
Wow.
Virginia. And it was just one day removed from our actual procedures. So it was quite humbling to have them there. I just really still to this day don't even have words for that. And that part in and of itself was humbling. But, here they drove to just see, just Jodie, just little old me. And I won 5 out of 6 first place finishes with a physique that would not win today, but depending on who showed up on stage that day, I was the winner for everything except the overall in figure, and thrilled with that. Got my master's pro card. And in that moment, when my name was called for that 5th and final time, I just had this overwhelming feeling of humility. And it's just so humbling that by God's grace, I am able to do this sport. We are all dealt hands in our lives with challenges and our superpowers, I say, and I'm just grateful. I mean, God is good. I am grateful that I've been given these gifts. And in that moment, I really felt like, okay, so who would I be to waste these gifts? Not just for my own journey, but for my clients and anyone who is receptive and willing to receive health and wellness information. It was a wow moment for our family, our extended family now, Ray and Julie. And I think, getting almost to the overall open pro card, I'm going to say that's when I developed my constant curiosity, as in I wonder what's next. And I think that's the mark of a true pro, but it was just completely overwhelming. So I would say that bodybuilding in that moment opened a door. I've been lucky in my life to land in certain situations and say, these are my people. But wow, when I attended that event, these are my people. And I think I speak for a lot of you out there when you felt that at shows as well. If I didn't say it already, it can't be bought. We've got to work for it. We've got to capitalize on the gifts we have, but I'm just grateful. So grateful.
And that's awesome, because I've said over and over again, bodybuilding can be like a double-edged sword. You have one end of it that you can learn and empower and experience and become a better human being from it. And then there's another end of it where you can just become very, very vain and just very, very self-centered. It becomes about the appearance. And bodybuilding, when done right, prevents you from becoming a beautifully wrapped empty box. That's one of my favorite sayings. I've used it over and over again in my Zen of Bodybuilding podcast. I say it all the time. I swear to God, I'm going to one day mint a coin and I'm going to put it on the back of it. Don't be a beautifully wrapped empty box. And that shows that there's so much growth in the sport besides just the stage and what it can mean. So thank you for sharing. That was awesome.
Thank you for letting me share. I do think that when we're able to recognize just being part of something that's larger than life, that's what life is all about. So thank you.
So Jodie, the expression of giving the shirt off your back to someone else and you gave an organ to someone else. I was wondering about that story. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was thinking of that because you've mentioned before that you're a living organ donor. That is outstanding. And I don't know how to follow that, but I'm going to try.
It's going to be amazing. I already know.
Wow. Well, my story really starts back when I would say I was in my mid-20s and I was doing the hustle of corporate America. My background is in exercise physiology. I have also a focus in dance and nutrition. And at the time, I was really, really struggling with a binge eating disorder. And I felt like such an imposter within my field. And I had an eating disorder from the age of 12 all the way up, I would say, when I started to heal until I started competing in the sport. A lot of times right now, as being a nutrition coach, people struggle with their relationship with food. I do relate it to much of a drug addict. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and I kind of didn't know where to go. I felt very embarrassed about my eating disorder. I was anorexic, bulimic, and then gained all this weight, and I just kind of looked like a big phony in the health and fitness space. Even though I was in a corporate job, I still was, I felt like I wasn't practicing what I preached. So lo and behold, I discovered, and you guys have heard me mention this before, Fitness America. Given my background in dance, and this was before I was married and had a kid, I was still longing for a healthy hobby. And I saw these women on TV back in the day at ESPN2 doing one-arm push-ups and back handsprings, and they were muscular and fit. And I was like, wow, I wanted, there was a part of me that identified with these women. And I went to a big expo. It was a huge expo in Pittsburgh. I would say this is circa like 2005, 2006. And I saw a woman on her 40th birthday come out on this stage. There were probably a couple thousand people at this expo. And she rocked this fitness routine, rocked a bikini. Her name's Dawn Butterfield. She's an icon in the fitness space. Sully, I know you know her. And I was like, wow. I was 25 at the time. She inspired me, all this stuff. I just didn't know where to start. So I call him my first earth angel. And there was this retired PE teacher at the gym that I was working out at. He knew that I was struggling with an eating disorder. He befriended me and he took me under his wing. He said, you know what? I've never coached anyone in bodybuilding or in fitness, but I'd really like this opportunity to coach you. And I became great friends. And it took me, I'm telling you, the weight that I had gained from my eating disorder and my relationship with food, it took me a while to actually lose weight and recomp my body and to find that girl inside me again that I knew was in there. And he was probably the most patient person next to my husband I ever met. So long story short, after about a year of training, I step on this stage that Dawn Butterfield had stepped on. And I did it all. I did a fitness routine. I did the bikini round. I did the pageant round, all these things. And I ended up winning the bikini round in my class. And I will never forget seeing Dave's face in the audience there and how it was a win for us. Now, the story gets better because I was able to gift him his first bodybuilding experience because I had never trained anybody for bodybuilding. On his 60th birthday, well, when he was 59, he said, I have something to tell you, and I don't want to tell you this. And he's so humble. And he says, I want to compete in a bodybuilding show. And guys, I kid you not, we did his routine. So you would have loved it. It was to Do You Love Me? He was flexing his pecs, all this stuff. So I choreographed a routine. He ends up beating these 20-year-olds. He wins the whole thing at the age of 60 on his 60th birthday. And I thought this was my gift that I could give to a man who saw something in me, this little girl that I felt like
That's awesome.
Really struggling. And we've been friends forever since. And I have him to thank for getting me into the sport.
That's awesome. And that's another thing that I always talk about all the time is that the biggest memories I have from the sport are not from the flexing on stage. It's from the relationships I built behind the stage. I'm people who I'm still friends with now that are just people you can count on. Every time that you see them at a show or you get together or you have that text message or you share something, you just have that intimacy that only somebody that walked this walk with you would fully understand. And I just think that's so cool is that he's motivating and training you, and then you're motivating and training him, and synergistically together, the two of you go and you just kill it. I love it. That's awesome. That is awesome.
So you speak to, Aubrey, the value of persistence too. You said it took you a while to change that body composition. And I can only imagine the work with the food behaviors because, I mean, we have to eat every day. So it's constantly in your face. So I hope that our viewers out there really take that to heart because persistence wins. It absolutely does. And yes, I love how you paid it forward and you paid it back too. I like it.
Yeah.
And it stuck. I mean, the lesson stuck. It wasn't a one and done.
Yeah.
You just didn't take the sport as a means to an end. I'm going to compete. You took it as a lifestyle and life event change, which is.
It did. He, the last part of that chapter, he saw me all the way through till I won Fitness America, the championships in Las Vegas, year before I had my son, because I was like, this is it. So it took me from the age of 27 till 35 to win the whole shebang bag, but I didn't stop. And to speak to persistence, it's like
Yeah.
No, I just do it until the wheels fall off, I guess.
I love it. And the wheels ain't going anywhere yet. You got a lot left in the tank, girl.
For sure.
All right, well, I guess I'm up. So let me preface this by saying that my finest moment was not a competition and where it all tied in. So I guess we'll start by watching this, and then I will explain it all. So here's what I want to show you all.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga. Let me tell you of the days of my adventure.
Keep watch over the night. Keep watch over the night. Keep watch over the night.
So did Conan return the wayward daughter of King Osric to her home, and having no further concern, he and his companions sought adventure in the west. Many wars and feuds did Conan fight. Honor and fear were heaped upon his name. In time, he became a king by his own hand. This story shall also be told.
So what was that? That was a guest posing routine. And why is it a culmination for me? Because for years, I had been struggling with the meaning of the stage meant. I had been struggling with what does it mean to be a bodybuilder. And here's a situation where Ray Binkowski, who was a new promoter for the OCB and is still promoting 20 years later for the OCB, called me up and invited me down to the Cobb, which is where he held his show. And so I go down to the show, and it was a totally different experience going to a foreign place to meet. It wasn't local. I traveled all over the world for competition, but never in this role. And we got to talk behind the scenes, and we built a friendship. and we built a connection. And he had me interacting with the athletes backstage, building relationships. And I was only there to guest post, so it really allowed me to open the aperture. And I got to sit back and watch what he did at his show. And as we're talking, you're seeing some of these highlights that I'm showing you of his show, and you see he was the first person I saw that had a military flag and rifle team come out and present the colors. A professional person singing the national anthem. The detail and the depth and the love that he put into this show was amazing. He turned around, he had me and this other competitor at the time, who's very, very famous trainer now, Lane Norton. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Dr. Lane Norton, but Lane and I were there doing a seminar together. They pulled us both in as residential experts. The competitors loved it. I had the opportunity to go out and just do that routine. Those role players that you see coming out and assisting me in that routine, they were competitors. I just went out back and said, hey, I want to do this routine. The young lady that helped me out, just pulled her out of a lineup. You want to jump in on this? And bang, she nailed it. That other guy, he went on that night to win the Masters 40 plus category in the bodybuilding. Just pulled him aside. Yeah, I'll be part of this. Hey, I brought a robe and, the costumes. But the whole thing, the culmination of it was that at the end of it, jumping off the stage and handing my sword to that kid, I don't know who you were. If you ever watch this, please, please, please reach back out to Natural Edge, because I want to know where you are now. I did that because his father approached me and told me how much he loved bodybuilding. I mean, he was only about 12 or 13 years old. And then he was yelling and screaming when I was doing Conan and the whole thing. And it would have been, he was just so excited. I had no intention of handing my sword to him. I jumped off and I handed him the sword. Afterwards, the dad asked me to sign it. I signed it. So somewhere out there is a signed sword. I want to know if the individual that I gave it to, did you ever compete? Are you still involved in bodybuilding? And even if not, share with me and tell me how you're doing. But it was just such a transcending moment, because it all fell together to me what bodybuilding really is. And what bodybuilding really is, it's an art form and it's an emotion, because people can express themselves. It's an opportunity to build social relationships. It's an opportunity to almost be a spiritual thing if you allow it to. It developed me emotionally. It helped me spiritually. It helped me socially. It helped me survive being, I don't share this, wear it on my shoulder, but I have learning disabilities. I was raised the adult child of an alcoholic. I mean, my mom was an alcoholic our entire time. We were homeless. We lived in a van. All these horrible things that can come about. When I was 13 and I ran into Arnold, I was on a path to either end up dead, in jail, incarcerated, whatever. And that experience changed my life, because Arnold spent 2 minutes with me. And because when we went to the Mr. Olympia that night, some of the competitors spent some time with me. And I had the opportunity to do the same thing at that show and to give back. And that is why it was just the moment that it all had perfect clarity to me. The sport is about great promoters who care because they care about the athletes. It's about the athletes giving back and sharing with other athletes. It's about utilizing the sport not as a competition, but as an art form and sharing what you do, which is why I think the greatest competitions are not competitions at all, but they're festivals of muscle and feminine beauty that can all be carried out to an audience. And if you let yourself soak it in that way and utilize the same tenets that you use to build your pecs and your biceps and your triceps and all these other things, and you allow it to build your inner core as well, you don't end up a beautifully wrapped empty box. And now here's the last funny thing about that. I had retired from bodybuilding 4 times before that moment. Every year I announced my retirement, and I always felt like I had to come back because I had something to prove. And that was a guest posing. And that was the last time I was ever on a stage. And I never announced the retirement because it was so fulfilling and it checked off all the boxes that I went quietly into that good night. I'm good with it. So that's what bodybuilding can do for you. So, hey, that answers that question. What was your finest moment on stage and what did you get out of it? Hey, as you can see, you got 3 absolutely totally different answers, but it was great.
I have feedback and questions.
Oh, geez.
Once you get up, just sailing on to that next topic, Sully.
I can never just segue. You always have to ask me questions. So go ahead. What is it?
You can say that timing is everything, right? But when you met Arnold and these very key moments happened, you also have to be so receptive in that moment. So that's pretty incredible that a 13-year-old could be so receptive in that moment. 13-year-olds aren't always receptive. What was it specifically would you say that grabbed you about Arnold in that moment?
Well, I've shared the story on my podcast. I don't know if I've ever talked about it here, but in short, what happened was I was suspended from school. I was starting to lash out because of everything that was going on. We were homeless at the time, living in a van in Columbus, Ohio. We were parked in an alleyway off of Fifth Avenue. We were by the YMCA. That's where I showered, cleaned up, and brushed my teeth, next door to the 7-Eleven, which is usually where we got dinner, and around the corner from the Dairy Queen, which is where I usually would go. And when I was young, I actually had pretty blue eyes, and I would just sit there and, I get a free ice cream. That's how we lived. So I was lashing out, and something happened at school. The wrong thing was said to me. I did the bad thing, and I got suspended from school. So I'm wandering the streets of Columbus, Ohio, and I ran across a health food store. Didn't know what it was, but they sold equipment and health food. And I looked in, and there were these jacked guys. I mean, really muscular guys. And so I popped in, and I loved comic books. Now, I had a love-hate relationship with my two favorite characters of all time to this day. Batman, dark, broody, moody, and Captain America, just integrity and just the man you should aspire to be. And all these people look like that. And there was a guy there, turned out to be Arnold, who was promoting it, and he was trying to do it because he was promoting the Mr. Olympia. And I remember walking up to him, and this is the moment that transcended everything, is people were asking him questions about biceps and triceps and this and that and the other thing. And I just noticed that he had an aura about him, like this man was beloved and respected for what he had to say and what he did. And he didn't even have his shirt off flexing. He was just the guy. And I asked him, how did you get these people to like you so much? And I think I threw him off, and he called his buddy Jim over, who I found out was a co-promoter with him, and gave me 2 tickets to the Mr. Olympia. I ran back to the van and told my mom, we got to go see this. It was the first time she saw me excited about anything. 2 nights later, we go to the Mr. Olympia. I sat there. I watched the bodybuilding. And then afterwards, on the way out, I ended up talking to Mike Metzer, Mike Katz, who was not competing that year. He was there. Turns out he was a school teacher. He was an educator, had a tough life growing up, told me a lot of stories about how bodybuilding changed him as a human being and gave him and all these things. And I was hooked from that moment on. Wow. Now I look back on it, and what's the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation is bodybuilding wasn't popular. Arnold was trying to fill the stands. He didn't really give a crap about this kid. He probably didn't even want to answer the questions. And he had Jim throw me 2 tickets to give me something to make him go away because I stumped him. I mean, that's probably what the reality of the situation is, but my perception was totally different. And it went on to teach me one very important thing about human behavior. You never know the impact that any small thing that you do can have on somebody. You never know. Amen. Every time I go and I buy a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, or I go through a drive-through, I always say, here's 2, pay it forward, buy the next one. The next one's on me for the next person who comes through. Because one day I was driving on my way up north, and I'm driving through New Jersey, and I'm listening to a talk radio show, and somebody was talking about suicide epidemic we have right now, right? And he was talking about how he had made up his mind, and he said, I'm going to go in and have my last cup of coffee at my favorite coffee shop. And he walked in, and the clerk gave him his coffee and said, a stranger bought this for you. It's on the house. And he goes and tells a story about how he sat there and he drank his cup of coffee and he's thinking about it, and it changed his perspective. Small little act changed his perspective and changed his outlook. And now, I can't remember how many years later it was for him, his life has changed, life is good. And that's not why I pay it forward with a coffee. And I was not the one who bought that coffee. I've never bought a cup of coffee in New Jersey where this happened. But it just showed me that these little things, what Arnold did, the kid with the sword, these things might be meaningless to you, but actions have consequences. And if the actions are good, they can have great consequences. So in your bodybuilding endeavors, you have fans, you have people who watch you, you have people who look at you, you have people who identify with you, and you don't know who they are. So don't
Sully,
be a beautiful.
You want to make us cry. That's so good.
Yeah, seriously.
Not only are you the Yoda natural bodybuilding, but I'm going to say that now you are the Mr. Rogers of bodybuilding. So touching.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Oh, wow.
True. I did hear that story about Arnold on Spotify when you had your other podcast, and I was driving with the tears running down my face, and I was, because it was very moving. Yeah.
One of these days we'll sit around and we'll tell you all the stories. People call me the poor man's Forrest Gump. I mean, You have Arnold. I have a Rod Stewart encounter story. I have Michelle Pfeiffer. I have the military. I have the police. I have been like, the poor man's Forrest Gump, no medals of honor and, no millionaire thing. But I've just lived a charmed life, and it is, you're receptive to what you get out of it. So,
Yeah.
Hey, to anybody out there who doesn't like me, I don't care. I am who I am, and I am 100% good with it. I always said, I'm just one of those weird cats that I could sit behind a sniper rifle for 12 hours and do what I need to do, and then I can go watch a sad movie and cry. I guess it's all part of being human. So don't hold back on being human, and don't hold back on being a competitor. Don't hold back. Don't hold yourself back. Push yourself physically, but also make sure you're growing and expanding mentally, socially, spiritually, and emotionally. Don't be a beautifully wrapped empty box. Hey, listen, I want to get into our 2 shows before we close. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little pose down, and we're going to cover our 2 events that we had last month. And then we're going to wrap this episode up on a high note by looking at some beautiful physiques. So who did we have?
Okay, so first up, we are heading to Dallas, Texas for the OCB Lone Star Rising. This was a show promoted by Yvette Robinson. And big shout out to all the athletes at this amateur showdown. They were bringing Texas-sized energy to the stage with over 70 competitors.
Quarter turn to your right. How old are you, number 1? 16. How old are you? 17. How old are you? 7.
My name is Crystal Van Meter, and I just got my pro card.
Came here with no expectations, got a full sweep, won first place in debut, novice, and open.
Hi, my name is Maureen Furness, and I just won my pro card in OCB figure.
My name is Cheyenne Johnson. This is my 3rd time competing with the OCB, and I finally won my pro card.
I'm Destiny Noel, and I compete in bikini, and I just won my first
We be growing in Texas. Everything's getting bigger and better there. We have more shows scheduled for Texas next year. Great job, Yvette. Who else?
Well, also on August 23rd, we had the OCB Battle of the Great Lakes Naturals. Fantastic show. I have attended that multiple times to help out. And that is promoted by the lovely Kim Hillier. And it's a beautiful time of the year to be in Cleveland. Over 70 athletes agreed, and let's roll the footage, see how they did.
And not just was it a great show, great t-shirts. Kim, my favorite t-shirt I've gotten so far this year. Hey, great job. Hey, that wraps up another episode. We went a little long on that first question. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it. One thing that we do want to do with Natural Edge is not just make it all about buys and tries and shows and whatever. If we can get a little philosophical every now and again, we will, but it's not going to turn into a Dr. Phil episode every single show. So with that, I want to say, train hard, be safe, stay natural.